number 5, 6 different kinds of glial cells. 4 of them are in the central nervous system. 2 of them are in the peripheral nervous system. We won't emphasize them all equally. There's only a few that I think are really important to your understanding of how the nervous system works. So they're called neuroglial cells. You'll also hear me call them glial cells. You know, all those terms work as far as I'm concerned. You get tired of saying neuroglial cells all the time, so I'll just be calling them glial cells. Oh, see if I can. My phone's almost dead, but I think I have enough juice to get me through the evening. Let's see. Get this remote. Oops, away. All right, one more screen. There it is. There we go. Alrighty, so this is a picture out of your book, and it looks really complicated, but look at it with me for a second. On the top there, it says gray matter. And then the bottom it says white matter. And what we're really referring to here then, you guys don't know the terms gray and white matter really yet, but what we're talking about is central nervous system. Alright, so let me just jump ahead real briefly to Wednesday. So if you look at a human brain, you know, you've seen it, it's all convoluted and all that sort of stuff. You're looking at what's referred to as a neurocortex. Now, if you slice through it, there's a really thin little sort of, it's like 2 or 3 centimeters thick, and it's called the gray matter of the brain. And that's where all those 20 billion neurons are located. The rest of the brain, by and large, is made up of what's called white matter. And there's a reason why we call it gray and white. But if you look at this complicated looking picture, here in the gray matter, don't worry about central canal and all that sort of stuff. Actually, what they're showing here is part of the spinal cord, but it would work for the brain. And here's where all the cells are. And here's various extensions and other stuff, right? But you can see the cell bodies have numerous connections to them. There's all kinds of little support cells hanging around here. Things called ependymal cells and microglial cells, and this has got to be an astrocyte, although it doesn't appear to be. Oh, there's an astrocyte there. Anyway, so we'll talk about what these cells are, where they're located, and what they do. They're there to provide support, nourishment, protection, damage repair, all kinds of things to the neurons. Because the neurons do not, stress this, the neurons do not divide. A few years ago, some researchers found an area of the brain where they thought there might be some neurons being, you know, kind of made. It's still somewhat controversial as to whether that exists or not. So by and large, so let's look at this way from a medical point of view. And maybe this has happened to you, or not to you, but maybe you know somebody this has happened to, or in your family. Well, my family. When my dad was still alive, at one point in time in his life, later in his life, he had a stroke. What that is, it's the neurons are probably the most metabolically active cells in the body, and they have to have a constant blood supply. If you cut off the blood supply to them, i.e. the oxygen, the cells die. And when they die, that compromises a certain area of the brain, right? Well, you may or may not know this, but the left side of your brain controls the right side of your body and vice versa. Well, I can't remember what it was with Dad, but I think it was his left arm was a little bit affected. It wasn't what we would call a massive stroke. But for whatever reason, a little bit of blood, you know, cerebrovascular accident occurred. A small area of his brain, the cells died. Well, for most people, unless the stroke is huge, you can kind of work around the damaged area, meaning other neurons will, with physical therapy and maybe some other types of therapy. You know, Dad always had a little bit of weakness in the arm, but you know, he was pretty good, right? You know, he wanted driving and things like that. But you know, so when the neurons go away, they go away. They don't like, you know, come back and go, okay, well, I'm fine now oxygen's back. It doesn't work that way. But the support cells really do exactly what the name implies. So here are the nucleal cells. Inside the central nervous system, there's 4. Astrocytes, microglial cells, and we'll get to what they do here in a second. Oligodendrocytes, a lot of big names here, and ependymal cells. Of these cells, we'll probably concentrate mostly on 1 and 3. I'll mention what 2 and 4 do, but 1 and 3 are kind of maybe the more ones that you can really pin an easy function on. Outside the central nervous system, in other words, in the peripheral nervous system, there are only two kinds of support cells. Satellite cells and something called Schwann cells. This is an eponymous name. This is a person's name. And as you'll see when we get into this, it gets changed a little bit. But